I studied the early beginnings of what we call the Azusa Street revival in Los Angeles, which gave birth to what we call the Pentecostal / charismatic movement around the world. And now we are some 115 years later. And for many people, they think that the early parts of that, it was all about, healings and wonders and all kinds of happenings. But when you read, and I think of Pastor Seymour, who was the leader there in that mission on Azusa Street in Los Angeles, he said that wasn't it. That wasn't it. No, that was part of it. But he said we felt like we were swimming in an ocean of God's love. We were surrounded by God's love. See, the love of God is shed abroad in our hearts by the Holy Spirit. That's the big sign. And so unless we become involved with the gospel, our experience of the Holy Spirit can easily stagnate. In the nation of Israel, and I hope that you will come with Tina and I on some tour in the future. Maybe you've been with us on a tour in the past, or maybe you're coming back again. We don't know when the next tour will be. But we always take you to the Sea of Galilee. And we go around that sea, and we look at all the sights there. And it's full of life. But the Dead Sea, on the other side of the country, in the south, it just gets smaller and smaller year by year. You can actually see where they built the hotels and the resorts by the Sea of Galilee, the Dead Sea, 30, 40 years ago. Well, they're not by the shore anymore. They're like a kilometer away from the shore because the Dead Sea is shrinking. What's the difference? The Sea of Galilee has inflow and outflow, while the Dead Sea only has inflow. You would have thought if the Dead Sea has so much inflow of water, it just must get bigger and bigger and bigger. But the opposite is true, because it loses its water through condensation, and it becomes bitter and salty, hence the Dead Sea or the Salty Sea. While the Sea of Galilee has inflow and outflow. This is a picture of the Christian life. When we only have an inflow of God's life, we receive, oh God, I want to receive more, Lord, I want to receive, but no outflow of giving what we have to others. We become often sidetracked, bitter, and unhappy. In fact, I want to say to you, if you feel a little bit depressed about your Christian life, you want to maybe check that the inflow isn't bigger than the outflow, that you're flowing in both directions.